Alright boys and girls, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the shop. So I've been asked several times by you guys what tools I use and what fasteners I use when I do my framing jobs. And I figured it's cold out, so let's grab some tools and go over what we actually use when we're doing framing and what you need and what is helpful. Now bare bones, if you want to do some framing, if you're going to build a shed, a giant garage, or an addition to your house, I probably wouldn't go this route, but all you need is a tape measure, a pencil, a handsaw, a hammer, and a pile of nails. Maybe 2 or 3 piles of nails. Now, would I be making a living as a framer using just these tools? No way. I would have quit a long time ago. So if you're a DIYer getting ready to build something and you want to expand the tools that you currently have because you're going to do a few jobs in the future, you know, you're going to build a shed and maybe a deck, maybe that little mother-in-law suite off the back of your house because, you know, your wife's mom's moving in and you want to keep her in the back. I'll show you some of the tools that I have acquired over the years that I use. Do you need all of these? Absolutely not. You only need the things that I just talked about. Let's start at the beginning. Get yourself a compressor. These are like the cheapest things that they sell in the universe. This came from Menards. It's a Bosch. Porter Cable makes the same thing. They don't say that they're made for running framing guns or roofing guns, but they'll do it. When I had a crew, we would run 2 roofing guns off of one of these things, and these little soldiers would just run their butts off. I'm sure you could go to Harbor Freight and find something even cheaper, but these things are great. They're portable. They're not big, heavy lunkers. I've had this one for at least 5 years and have had no issues with it. So once you get your compressor, get all the hoses, all the extension cords, everything you need to run that. A lot of times the compressors will come with a hose. It's usually like a 25-footer or tops, 15-footer sometimes. You'll probably want like a 50-footer or so. We got to run a gun. This is a framing gun. This is a Paslode. I don't know the model number. I have 3 of these. This is not actually the one that I use out of my truck. This is the spare, and it's going to get rebuilt. I actually have a rebuild kit right here. This thing is slated for surgery shortly. That'll probably be on the second channel. Go check that out when it's out. Now you could go to Harbor Freight and get one of theirs. I've never used one. I can't vouch for it. Just keep in mind, you're getting what you pay for. Also keep in mind that all these tools I'm going to talk about, you should be able to find at your local rental place. So if you don't want to purchase, rent them. I mean, you know, for a weekend or so, they're not that expensive. Pneumatic gun nails. If you're going to run a gun, you're going to have pneumatic gun nails because you can't stick the hand drives in there. It doesn't work. I've got 3 1/4 12D nails right here, which are spikes, as we call them. That can run anywhere from 10D to actually 16. The gun does not like to run that big a nail, so I run the 12s. Works out pretty good. I like 3 1/4. They allow 3-inch nails, but I don't like toenailing with 3-inch nails, so I like running the 3 1/4. For sheathing, 2 3/8 8D. These happen to be ring shanked brights. Now these are 3-inch 10D hot dip galvanized. These are for the bottom plate when I'm nailing up my walls because you have to use galvanized in treated per code. Because you'll have, I think it's called galvanic corrosion if you use a regular nail because they have copper in the treated now. I don't know. It's all sciencey stuff. I'm just a carpenter. I don't know what's going on. But I use the 3-inch for the bottom plates because I'm not toenailing. I'm going straight in. So these work fine. They are acceptable by code where I'm at. Check with your local authorities. Unless you're not asking permission. Hey, you do you, boo. But make sure you get the proper nails. The gun I use is a paper collated strip of nails. So this is the 12D, this is the 8D. They also make wire collated nails. Make sure you get the right ones. Ask somebody when you're going to the store, or if you're going to rent the equipment, they probably sell you nails there and they'll let you know which ones you need. Get yourself a giant framing hammer. No, you don't need a big framing hammer. You guys have seen the hammer that I use, the little pink hammer, keep it in my little hammer hoop on my Dickies pants. That's all you need if you're using a gun. If you're hand driving nails, get yourself a decent framing hammer. All right, now that we've addressed that we have to attach studs to plates, we need to measure because we need to be able to lay out. So I carry on my pocket because if you've watched my videos, you know I hardly ever use a tool belt. My tool belt is actually stuck up on a shelf back here. It hasn't been in my truck in months. I keep a 25-foot tape on me. This has an actual pretty good standout on it. That's why I purchased it. I mean, we're at 10 feet there. That's 11 plus. I'm supporting it, but when you work alone, having a good standout is a benefit. I also keep a 30-footer in my truck for when I'm laying out plates on a 24-foot or even a 30-foot wall, because 25-footer, when you're hitting 24 feet on a 24-foot wall, it taxes the end of this tape. They really don't go as far as they say they are in the measurements. You'll get 22 feet easily out of this, but I carry a 30. They make bigger, at least like 35s, if not 40s or 50s. My hands are too small to hold a tape like that, so I don't have one. This one usually sticks in the truck. I've had it for many, many years, and it's still in a really good shape because I don't use it that often. To check your slab before you start building. Now, if you poured the slab, you shouldn't have to check it because I know you did it right. But if you hired a goofball, I like having a 100-foot tape. I can measure all my measurements. It doesn't matter if you've got a 80-foot long garage. You can get a sidewall measurement with that. But this is nice to go corner to corner to check for square. Do you need it? Probably not, as long as you trust the guy that put the concrete in. Now that we've got everything to measure our walls, lay them out, and get ready to nail them up, obviously you got to mark your layout. So grab yourself a pencil and a knife so you can keep it sharp, and a speed square. I think they call them rafter squares, although I rarely use them for rafters because I use a framing square for my rafters. If you don't know how to lay out a rafter and you want to be a little more confused, I'll put a link to a video right here and you can go check that out where I try to explain how I lay out rafters. It'll probably just confuse you more than when you got here in the first place. But a framing square and a speed square / rafter square is basically all you need for layouts. Now you got everything laid out and now you got to cut your plates. So you got to grab your saw. And you definitely don't want to use this. So get yourself a real saw. This is a Makita 7¼ inch circular saw. It is a 15 amp. This is my good saw, although it's a little worse for wear. Do you need a saw that costs you, $150 or something like that? No, you can get a skill saw at Lowe's or Home Depot. You could get a Ryobi, something like that. I'm sure Harbor Freight sells them. Also, they rent them. So this is my go-to plug-in 15 amp 7¼ circular saw. But if you guys have watched my more recent build videos, you'll know that I have acquired 7¼ DeWalt 20 volt. This thing is my baby. The kit I have actually came with a 6.5. It does not have very much power. This thing has the power of a corded saw as long as you got a decent battery. I run 6 amp hour batteries in them and it gives you quite a bit of juice. You can rip a 16-foot 2x8.5 with this thing without missing a beat. Do you need this? Absolutely not. Are you going to do it every day? Then you might want one. Keep in mind, links for every one of these tools or a tool comparable will be down in the description. They will be Amazon affiliate links. If you guys want to help out the channel so I can make a buck, it costs you guys nothing. Order through there and, pick yourself up some nice tools. But how am I supposed to do all this, you ask? Because I don't have a workbench on the job site. Well, get yourself some horses. These are Stablemate by Fulton. These are, in my opinion, the absolute greatest horses that you can get to throw in your truck and have on the job, and you can beat these things unmercifully. Now, are they the most expensive horses I have ever seen? Yes. Do they last forever? Also, yes. These are 36 inch tall. Being short I kind of wish I would have got the 30s, so I might get another pair of 30-inch tall horses, because when I'm cutting rafters, it gets pretty tall, and it puts a lot of strain on my elbows because I'm an old man. Do you need high-dollar, super heavy-duty horses? Absolutely not. You don't even need horses if you want to work off the stack of lumber that the lumberyard delivered to you. Or just, you know, go pick up some $20 horses. They sell cheap plastic horses everywhere. You know, if you cut them in half or something, doing something stupid, who really cares? Because you're only out a couple bucks. So for the pro, I absolutely recommend these. If you are doing it as a DIY, don't get these. Go buy the cheapest sawhorses you can find. Alright, here's some of the more big boy toys that I use just out of convenience. I mostly run everything cordless now, except a couple things. Obviously the compressor is not cordless. I don't want to go to a cordless framer because they're kind of finicky in my experience, and I don't have time to be messing with one that's going to be jamming up on me. So I run a compressor and a hose and a nail gun. Plus those Paslodes are about half the cost of a decent cordless nailer. But my cordless kit that I picked up at Lowe's when it was like on sale several years ago, a few of these tools have been replaced because I have burnt them to death. It's not a knock against DeWalt. It's more a knock against me because I abuse things. Oh, let's see. We need a drill because we're gonna have to drill out for bolts before we stand our walls. You gotta drill out your bottom plates. That being said, you're gonna need something to drill out for your anchor bolts. I carry an Irwin paddle bit set. A few of these have gotten pretty dull. You can kind of sharpen them. But I like having this because I have 1.5 inches, and when I am drilling out for conduit, that bad boy is the go-to. Because 1 inch conduit coming through your plate, if you drill out in 1 inch or 1 1/8 inches, it doesn't give you much play. So I like taking out 1.5 inches, and if you watch some of my videos, this thing will bring that drill around and rip your wrist off. So get a drill. It can be corded, that's perfectly fine. Get yourself a few paddle bits. All you really need is maybe a 5/8 to drill out for the bolts, and maybe a touch bigger than whatever the size conduit is coming through your concrete, if you have conduit. When I built the bunker here, I didn't even run conduit through the concrete. I just stubbed it up with an LB afterwards. We'll talk about that on a different video. A reciprocating saw, colloquially known as a sawzall. Now, do you even need this? Probably not. If you can mark out your sheathing around your doors, you can make the cuts before you install it. I like to install right over everything and then just chop it out afterwards. Obviously, we need a blade. I got some blades here, maybe. Stick a blade in here, let it rip. You cut out all your openings for doors, windows, whatever. So, do you need it? No. Is it handy? Absolutely. Running the nuts and washers down on the bolts on the bottom plate after I have drilled them out with my drill and my 5/8 paddle bit, I use an impact. Do you need an impact? No. You can use a ratchet, you can use a wrench, you can use a crescent wrench, you can use channel locks or slip joint pliers or whatever. But I have this, it makes things really easy. If you've watched some of my videos, zip, zap, zoop, you're done. It runs them down nice and tight. Don't go too tight when you're tightening down your bottom plates. They just need to be snugged up. An impact driver. I use this to run in any screws that I am using. Do I build with screws? Very seldom, because you need to use framing screws or lag screws. You can't just use like a deck screw because that doesn't have shear weight. It's not made for framing. Do I use a lot of deck screws for bracing temporarily and stuff? Yes, absolutely. When I'm setting my ridge, when I'm putting the angle braces up on the side walls, and when I'm putting the big braces that hold the eave walls in line, I use screws, little impact driver, and some 2.5 inch deck screws, which I carry a bucket of because A, I do a lot of decks, and B, they're just handy for temporary bracing. This makes life a lot easier. Can you do it with nails? Absolutely. You don't even need to have the nail gun. You don't even need to have an impact driver and screws. You can drive in your temporary bracing with a hammer, and you can pull it apart with a hammer. A wiggly saw. Do you need it? No, probably not. Grinder with a cutoff disc. Do you need it? If your concrete guys put a bolt in the wrong spot, you're probably going to want one of these. Speaking of putting a bolt in the wrong spot, I've got a decent hammer drill. This is a Bosch Bulldog. Unfortunately, this is a bad time to make this video because after about 6 years of abusing the poop out of this thing, it finally died on me. I thought it was the switch, and I replaced it, and it didn't do anything, so it's something very internal. I broke this all down, checked the brushes and everything. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm not going to badmouth it, because for like $180, I have beat this thing unmercifully. If you have to drill in an aftermarket, I guess we'll call it, anchor bolt, a wedge anchor, get yourself a hammer drill. They do rent them. If all of your bolts are laid out properly when you're building a garage, you won't have to worry about it. So, you know, you can save yourself a buck that way. We've got our walls up and we need to plumb them in. So before we get ready to put our temporary bracing on to hold them plumb, we got to level them in. I got a Stabila 10-foot level. This thing is not cheap. Again, I will put a link down in the description if you want to pick one up. This is a 6-foot level, but it does extend to 10 feet. The absolute greatest level I have ever used in my life, because you can go plate to plate with this thing. Can you put a wall up with a 4-foot level? Absolutely. So if that's all you have, use it. You could use a 2-foot level if you want. Can you put your garage up with a torpedo level and will it stay there? Yeah, probably, but I wouldn't recommend it. All right, a few other nice things to have would be a chalk line. If you are making your cuts on your OSB, and you want to be as precise as you can, use a chalk line so you can snap lines if you're working by yourself. Get yourself a helper. I mean, you know, you want to pay some knucklehead $15 an hour to help you, or do you just want to go get a 99-cent clamp from Harbor Freight? It'll hold the other end of the chalk line when you're snapping lines on your plywood or your OSB. That's perfect. That's put a lot of guys out of work over the years. Couple other things, just random drill bits, driver bits, everything you would maybe need in case you have something where you're running in like a Spax lag bolt, or you have to drill something out. I don't know. It's just other things I carry. One other thing that I carry is this Crescent 180-piece toolkit. I'm going to go over this on the second channel, so if you want to see a review on this and find a link for it, go over to the second channel and check out that review. And last but absolutely not least is a first aid kit. I keep this one in my truck. I also have a smaller one that just has like Neosporin and Band-Aids in it, because 99% of the time that's what I need. This one is one I picked up off of Amazon. I will put a link down in the description. This has trauma shears and big bandages. I actually carry a tourniquet in here too. This has a lot of the big boy stuff that you might need in case you experience a big boy trauma on the job. So it is better to have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. Also, safety glasses. These are not safety glasses, but I have some somewhere. Wear your safety glasses. Have your first aid kit. Maybe even a fire extinguisher. Depends on what you're doing. I almost needed a fire extinguisher on a job one time. We'll get into that some other time on a live stream. So guys, that should about do it for most of the tools that I use when I am framing, especially framing a garage. Let me know down below if you have any questions. Let me know if you think I missed something. I may have. There might be a very important tool still sitting in my truck, but it's too cold out and my truck's froze over, so I'm not going back out there. I think the only thing that really wasn't on camera was air hoses and extension cords. So remember, check out the description for links to all of these or something comparable to it. You can help out the channel by purchasing through Amazon through those links. I'd appreciate it. If you want to also help out, you can join the memberships around here. We got the Knucklehead Club, $2.99 a month. You get the videos early, you get members-only posts, and when we do the big shop live streams, those get pulled after a couple days and go to members only. I think this video actually went a lot longer than I was planning on, and now I gotta get tidied up in here because I gotta get the TJ back in here because I'm not leaving her parked out there. We got another snowstorm coming. I'll catch you guys on the next video. You all stay safe and stay warm. Ladders. I forgot ladders. I carry with me a 10-footer, an 8-footer. Inside, I have a Warner 5-footer that I think goes up to 9. So that gives me a 5 to 9. An 8-footer, a 10-footer. Here's a little walk plank down underneath there. I think that's also Warner. And if you guys can use one, and if you guys can acquire one, a 16-foot pick, a walk plank. They're very nice. You cannot have enough ladders. 8s, 10s, even 12s if you can get them. Beg, borrow, steal, rent, whatever you're doing, get as many people as you can to help and get as many ladders as you can for them to stand on.